Stop number 6. This is one where you could see records broken. They're going to Lake Sam Rayburn, Jasper, Texas, June 5th and 6th. So now we're totally switching gears, and we're going from post-spawn straight into the summertime pattern. And Lake Sam Rayburn is so well known for producing giant largemouth bass, and you will see them in this tournament. On Rayburn, early June, definitely I would consider it an early summertime pattern. That deep brush pile bite is going to be really, really good. Fish that are done spawning, they've transitioned out in that deeper water, 15 to 30 foot brush piles, outside edge of grass, that's going to be a key. But listen to me, on Sam Rayburn, if you like to fish shallow, don't worry, because there's always a shallow water bite on Rayburn, and you can win flipping, especially if the water happens to be high. Don't count out the shallow water bite.
Hey everybody, AJ McWhorter here, your tournament director for the Hobie Bass Open Series, anchored by Power Pole. And here we are on Boss Talk, getting ready for our next event. And you got to hear from professional angler Mike Iaconelli there. He records these things a few months out, and he does them all, and we were really appreciative of that. Obviously, conditions are going to change, and he's hit some of these legs with, hit the nail on the head, and some of them, the conditions, maybe it was a little too cold early or whatever it was, but it's always interesting to hear his perspective. We really appreciate him, sharing that on these events. But we've brought in one of our kayak gurus, especially in the state of Texas, Joseph Sanderson. He's going to join us here in just a little bit later, but we're going to touch on some business items first. Before we dive into some of the details for the Sam Rayburn event, we are going to acknowledge our Far Wide Angler of the Year standings. So after his win on Lake Hartwell, Ewing Minor, who is a college age angler, he fishes for Carson Newman University in Tennessee. He's from Virginia. He took over our Angler of the Year race after a win on Hartwell, but he also had a second place at Watts Bar, and he had that top 12 at Lake Seminole to start the season. So Ewing is definitely, obviously he's qualified for the TOC, but he's definitely put himself in a position, even if he doesn't better his score this season, to be competitive for our Angler of the Year. If you're not familiar with our Angler of the Year program, we take your best 3 events through the year, and then we add that to your Tournament of Champions total. So everybody that's competing for Angler of the Year has to compete against each other on Lake Eufaula this November, and that's where our Angler of the Year will be crowned. Now, first place prize for that's going to be a Hobie Pro Angler 360 in a custom orange and black color, rigged out with awesome prizes from our sponsors. You've got Lowrance Depth Finder, Power Pole, custom marine mat kit, Railblazer accessories, and some other items. But it also comes with $5,000 cash and a qualifier to the Hobie Fishing Worlds. Now, second and third place Angler of the Year comes with cash, $3,000 and $2,000 respectively, and they punch their ticket to the Hobie Fishing Worlds, and they'll have some great prize packages from our sponsors as well. So here's the thing, though, because you only count 3 events through the season and the TOC, we're only halfway through the season. There are 5 events left that are spaced out across the country, Texas, Wisconsin, Tennessee. We've got our swing up to the northeast, and then further up northeast with Champlain and Susquehanna. So there are plenty of events, plenty of opportunities to get involved. Last year when Drew Gregory won our Angler of the Year race, he did it by only fishing the last 3 events. So, it's definitely still open for anybody. And when you look at our list too, there are some names. And if you're not familiar where to find this, you can go to hobiebos.com. We've got all our events listed there, but we've also got an easy link to go click on our Far Wide Angler of the Year race. And you've got I mean, Cody Milton, Russ Snyder's in third, Kurt Smith's in fourth. Brian Delahunty has had a strong year so far, in our fifth spot. Got two really good events and one that he is sure to cull throughout the season. Jackson Orr's coming in sixth. Eric Thomason is in seventh. Brian Howe is in eighth, and he's also put himself in a really, really strong position with a first place and a second place so far. And he's got an event where he got 38 points, so he finished like in the 60s. And that's, I mean, you guys know Brian Howe's going to call that out at some point through the season. So he's going to make a jump. Jordan Marshall in ninth, and Brian Coyne from Ohio rounding out the top 10. But most everybody on that list is going to improve their score, and we are going to see some other anglers jump up into the mix. We've got some strong anglers in the 11th to 30 range that are going to have opportunity to call out one or two more events. And it's just going to be fun to watch all year. And you guys can follow right along on this screen that we're showing to you, and that's on hobiebos.com. So now our sponsor, Far Wide, they're an amazing supporter of kayak fishing and just the outdoors. Their whole goal is to get people into the outdoors and let them see all the places that are accessible. So it's definitely one of those things that if you're not familiar with that app, check it out. It is a free app. It is definitely available to anybody that wants to check it out. You can put it right on. Excuse me, I got a little guest that wants to make an appearance. So Boone is definitely here for the live broadcast. So everybody say hi to Boone. Boone is a 9-week-old Aussie doodle, and we have been friends for about 4 days now. And we are enjoying things and feeling each other out. And I can't wait to get him on the road and let you all meet him in person at one of these events here soon. But he is going to be fun to have with us, and hopefully he doesn't get into any trouble during this broadcast. But if you see me look away real quick, I'm a new dog dad, so I'm quick to react when there's something going on. But before we dive in any further, I want to start talking about Sam Rayburn. So obviously, a few of you guys have been reaching out to me over the last couple weeks to let me know of the situation that's down there. And I appreciate that. Obviously I wasn't aware of the enormity of the full situation. And for those that aren't aware, this region of the country has gotten a tremendous amount of rain over the last, month. And the lake is completely swollen, and they can't pull it fast enough. So it's still coming up. It's almost 10 feet up right now, and it's rising. There's been a lot of rain in the watershed over the last few days. They are expecting more rain. Pretty much what has happened in the last few days is that the Army Corps of Engineers, the Forestry Department, which hosts most all of these ramps in the area, have completely shut them down. They are closed for usage. There are gates up, barricades up. Obviously, those are ramps, and they're blocking vehicles from getting in there. And we have the ability in kayaks to potentially go in there. But it's my understanding, talking to the local officials today, that is not appropriate, not allowed. So technically, those launches would be off limits for us as well during this time frame. Just for perspective, this isn't something that's going to get resolved quickly. The Army Corps of Engineers already announced that they are shutting down the ramps through the start of July. So we're not even into June. They know that this mess that they're currently in is going to last anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks. Best case scenario. The lake is extremely high. It's still coming up. It's muddy. There's a lot of debris. There are roads around the lake that are closed. There are a lot of ramps and facilities that are completely unusable. And really, it sets up as a really challenging scenario for us to come into. If we were a bass boat entity, this would have already been canceled weeks ago. Because we have some unique abilities, we're still evaluating all of our opportunities here. And it's just one of those challenging things. You know, anytime that you make a schedule, you want it to be right. You want it to fit conditions, but you also don't want conditions that are out of your control to affect your ability to hold the event, put the anglers in a safe environment that's going to showcase the fishery, but also where there's going to be a fun, you know, atmosphere around the whole thing, because that's really what this is all about. So no decisions taken lightly, and we will let everyone know. We will make an announcement within the next hopefully less than 36 hours, because we know some of you are already going to start to travel. So we're hoping to have it finalized within the next 24 hours. And this would be something that we would reschedule if we had to move this event. We definitely are committed to working with Sam Rayburn this season. They were very excited to have us and have a national kayak entity, you know, fit into their busy bass boat tournament schedule, and you know, just to see what we're all about. But they also want us to come in a time where the lake is accessible, it's safe, and people that are traveling from all over the country have a chance to enjoy one of the top bass fisheries in the country. So it's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on, and we're trying to evaluate what the best case scenario is for you guys. Now, any time really, we have operated under the ability of we are going to fish here at the Bass Open Series. But I always let people know that sometimes I don't get to make the final call. And that's definitely going to be one of those situations, this particular event. We will rely on our local officials. I just got off the phone with a few guys right before this live meeting starts. And, you know, we will review with our director counsel for the Hobie Bass Open Series tomorrow and get you guys information as quickly as we possibly can. So it's not great news, but it's not a great situation down there. There's a lot of flooding. They're trying to control that watershed so there's not more flooding, both upstream and downstream. And it's definitely a tough situation down there in Texas. So if you're not following that, make sure you're aware of what's going on down there, because those guys are really struggling, and they need our thoughts and prayers there to move through that situation. Now, we are going to move into our guest, Joseph Sanderson. He's going to talk to us a little bit about Sam Rayburn and how that fishery presents itself, both in normal conditions and high water. We might talk about some other times of year where Sam Rayburn can really show out. And we're just going to have fun talking fishing tonight, and we'll figure out exactly how this is going to play out for this particular event in the next 24 to 36 hours. And we will have that final decision and let you guys know so you can plan accordingly. Now, if we do have to reschedule the event, obviously we would give everybody full refunds, or we would transfer, they would automatically be transferred into the new date of the event. And so, it would definitely be anglers' opportunity and choice. We know that this is a tough situation. We know that people have scheduled lodging, and there are going to be some challenges there. Hopefully everybody understands the situation, and that a lot of this stuff is obviously out of our control. And, it just is really what it is. And it's frustrating for everybody, including you guys. And I hate to have this conversation, as you guys can probably tell. So with that said, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll have Mr. Sanderson with us when we come back.
Hey guys, I'm Morgan with Hobie Kayaks. We're here in Everglades City, Florida. I'm hanging out with the Power Pole guys. We have a Power Pole Micro on the back of this Hobie Mirage Pro Angler 360, and we've been doing some fishing in shallow water. If you're a shallow water angler, there is no better combination than a Hobie with Mirage Drive 360 and a Power Pole Micro, because when you're in that shallow water environment, in current and wind, you can deploy the spike, hold yourself in position to target that area that you want to fish. Then you have the Mirage Drive 360, so you can pivot your boat around. It's the only drive on the market that can turn sideways, so you're facing into the wind, basically wherever you want. So you stop yourself on the flats, you fish exactly where you want, you get your lure in the right place. Can't beat the combination of a Hobie, Mirage Drive 360, and Power Pole Micro. The Power Pole Micro can mount on pretty much any one of our Mirage Drive kayaks. And if you are a shallow water environment angler, whether you bass fish on lakes or rivers, or you're fishing intercoastal waterways where you have sand flats, mud, oysters, that micro is going to allow you to stop. You know, you're not having to throw an anchor over the side or manually deploy a stakeout pole or something like that. A lot of the time we stand up on the kayaks, and especially in environments where you have clear water, you're sight fishing, you're looking for fish using your polarized sunglasses, and it's so important to be able to stop when you need to, and that's what the Power Pole Micro does. It's silent, it's amazing, and it's very fast too. So that spike goes down, you stop, and it gives you that chance to present your lure to that fish. I can't fish in a shallow water environment without a Power Pole Micro. Power Pole Micro is powered by Sea Monster 2.0, and what that means is I can wirelessly connect with this remote that comes with the unit. It has an up and down button, and all I have to do is hit one of these buttons and my spike will deploy or retract. Now that's a huge advantage for fishing. When I want to stop, I stop, whether I'm sight fishing or I'm just battling against wind and current. But the cool thing is I'm not wasting time searching for my anchor in my kayak, throwing it over the side, making a noise, spooking fish. It's swift, silent, secure, and small, and there is no better tool for stopping yourself in shallow water than a Power Pole Micro anchor. I've been lucky enough to fish all over the country with Hobie Outdoor Adventures, our TV show. And anytime I'm in a shallow water environment, I feel like I'm naked if I don't have a Power Pole Micro on the back of my kayak. It's an integral part in catching fish for me, especially if there's wind and current. Really, if you don't have a way to stop yourself, swift, silently, and secure like you can with the Power Pole Micro, you're not fishing. You're not getting your lure in the right place. We're fishing shallow water here, so these fish are very spooky, and I'll use the Mirage Drive and Power Pole Micro in combination to anchor myself on that flat and present my lure properly to those fish. You know, we kayak fish because it's stealthy. You can't fish in Florida without a Power Pole Micro, and in combination with the Mirage Drive 360, you're going to be an unstoppable angler and catch a lot more fish.
All right, everybody, welcome back here to Boss Talk, and we are bringing in Mr. Joseph Sanderson. Joseph, tell everybody where you're from.
What's up, everyone? I call Austin, Texas home, but love to travel all over the state, all over the country to get out and fish. And Sam Rayburn is right up there with my favorite lakes in the country. So I was really excited whenever AJ asked me to come and talk on this show, and even more excited to hopefully get to fish this event in June.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, and there's a little bit of a, you know, you've got a little bit of a mythical surrounding from you for last year. You know, some people don't know that you were able to qualify for the TOC by essentially flying into events, borrowing gear from local shops or reps, and, you know, not even pre-fishing, literally just getting on the water the day of the event, seeing a new fishery like La Crosse or the Susquehanna and the Coosa chain, seeing them for the first time at Lines Inn on Saturday morning. Before we dive into Sam Rayburn, talk to us a little bit about the mindset going into a tournament like that, you know, where, you know, people are very familiar with the waterway, you know, they've spent a week there or days there, and you're literally just coming in. You have a very precise mindset of what you're going to do, and you executed in 3 events, put yourself in a position for to fish the Tournament of Champions last year in Knoxville. And you really, I mean, you had good finishes in like really good finishes in 2 of those events. And, that's a strong performance. Tell us a little bit about that mindset, because I know we have a lot of anglers that just don't feel like they have the time to compete with these guys that have weeks on, to fish. So tell us a little bit about that. And, if you're going to be flying into any events this year.
Yeah. So first of all, it was an absolute blast. I am going to be flying into some more events this year. I'm going to fly back to the Susquehanna. I'm going to fly back to La Crosse, Wisconsin again this year. Hopefully going to fly into Pickwick as well. So kind of going into those events, the biggest thing for me was map study. And I'm a shallow water fisherman. I don't like fishing offshore, and I'm not very good at it. Not to mention that I didn't have a graph whenever I came into these events. So I just got on Google Maps and kind of looked around, looked at stuff that met my eye, and put myself in areas that were very diverse as well. So if one thing wasn't working, I could go on and move on to the next thing until I landed on a pattern or an area or a type of structure that was working. So that was kind of the big thing. Also, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I know that you aren't really supposed to be like, oh, that's a spot that guy caught fish at and go and fish there. But it did end up working out, especially at the Susquehanna. So it was a lot of fun, and it was really kind of empowering even to me, because there are so many good anglers that we fish against in the series across the country. And it was empowering to know that you can show up literally at 1 a.m. the morning of the tournament after flying in, getting a rental car and driving a couple hours to the venue, and still compete. And it was great to meet people across the country, especially up north. I don't get up there very often. It was great to see different parts of the country. And you and Hobie and all of the reps that were able to help me make that kind of vision a reality. Like, I can't thank y'all enough. And I'm looking forward to doing it again this year.
Yeah, man. And it's sometimes those time things just come together. For anybody that's, in a similar situation, reach out to me. Let me know if you're maybe looking to need some help getting on the water in these areas. We travel with normally an extra boat or two, the reps that come and help the event. We try to work with our local dealers. And then there's just so many great people in this sport that often have extra boats. Absolutely. And extra rods and like some random stuff. That's one of the great things about this sport is people are always so willing to help each other out, to have someone be a part of this event. So if one of these events is just, something that you can't drive to, or you've got some personal stuff with gear, even if it happens during the event, make sure you reach out to your tournament director, because they're going to do everything they can with what they have to help keep you on the water and keep you having fun at these events. Now, we're going to transition from that to Sam Rayburn. Man, give us a little bit of history about Sam Rayburn. I mean, you've fished, definitely some local tournaments out there. Is that is Cats kind of the main player that's gone out there that you participated with, or is there some other groups that you've gone out there and fished with? And what have those events look like for you in the past?
Yeah, so gosh, I guess I've fished probably 3 tournaments on Sam Rayburn now, 2 out of a kayak and 1 out of a bass boat. The bass boat one was the Keith Combs charity tournament out there, and then the Cats Classic was one that's our end of season championship out there. And there's one other one at some point in time that I can't remember right now, but did have a good track record out there, cashed a check in the Keith Combs benefit tournament, and ended up winning the Cats Classic out there, which is a 2-day event similar to what we'll be fishing in the Hobie BOS. And I've just fallen in love with it. It's a great lake to go and fun fish. One of the biggest things to me about Sam Rayburn is that you can fish to your strengths. If you like fishing offshore, you can fish offshore. If you like fishing up shallow, no matter the time of year, you can go and fish up shallow. You can find rock, you can find trees, you can find grass, you can find current. I know that we have a bunch of people in this series that really like to fish rivers and current, and you have all that. And it's great. I was talking to Matt Scotch about this event a couple months ago. He was like, oh man, in June, the post-spawn bite is going to be on fire. Like, they're going to be out deep 25 feet of water, and it's going to be great. And I was like, oh man, like, I think we're still going to catch the tail end of the shad spawn. And I'm going to be up in 2 foot of water and dirty water and trying to catch those fish. So that just goes to show that you can catch the fish however you want to catch them. And I think that that's a really, really awesome thing about a fishery like Rayburn, which is unique to a lot of the fisheries that we go to, because generally there's one pattern that dominates. And especially this time of the year at Rayburn, I really don't think that that's going to be the case. I think that throughout the top 10, you're going to have people fishing from 25 foot deep all the way up to a foot deep, which is great. And you can really exploit your strengths in the tournament like that.
No doubt. Well, I am curious, what did it take to win that 2-day Cats championship that you said you won, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What did it take?
Day one, I had 98 inches. In day two, I stumbled a little bit and had, I think, mid 80s. But with that being said, I know that everyone always has a fish story. That was the one day, or the 2-day event in my life that I remember that I had more fish stories than anything else. I probably hooked 5 or 6 fish over 8 pounds that I saw, not to mention a couple others that got off that felt big that I didn't see. One of them had ate a frog up in 2 foot of water, and it jumped and got the line caught on the bark of a tree and was hanging halfway out of the water, and tried to make it over to it and shook off. But Sam Rayburn is a magical place. Giant fish live there. As everyone knows, there was a sharelunker, which is an over 13-pound bass, caught in an FLW event there earlier this year. So yeah, it was 180 something inches, 184 inches or so that won. But I guarantee you that it is going to take way, way more than that, no matter if we fish it in the high water or if this event has to get postponed.
Yeah, man. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And so when you talked about, your preference of fishing shallow water, and anybody that's kind of followed your, recaps of events, that's definitely your strong suit. And it's not just you. I mean, we've got some amazing anglers in this series that find those areas no matter where we go, where they can get into some of the shallowest stuff because they know that there's bass there. What do you look for on a lake like Sam Rayburn? Like, are you primarily targeting flooded timber, flooded brush, or lily pads or vegetation that is in that really shallow water? I mean, I know obviously you have a little bit of everything on Sam Rayburn, but what's your preference? What do you like to throw? What are your main targets on this fishery? For finding that kind of bite to win.
Yeah. So I think for me, my 2 main targets on Rayburn, fishing up shallow, are the flooded bushes. The flooded bushes are legendary at Rayburn. Everyone knows about them. Especially whenever the water's high, the fish move up into those bushes. And the second thing is cypress trees. I love fishing cypress trees on Sam Rayburn. With that being said, I have caught plenty of fish out of hydrilla, milfoil, lily pads out there. And there's plenty of other shallow water targets as well. Clay banks, and I guess there's hay grass. There's a lot of hay grass out there that a lot of fish get into, but I like the bushes and I like the hardwoods, especially the cypress trees there.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned the frog earlier. So are you primarily frog fishing those areas? Is that really your preferred way to get at them? Or is there some other techniques that you like to use when you're fishing those kind of shallow targets?
Yeah. I mean, anyone that knows me and knows how I like to fish, I like to catch them on top. I like a big, heavy rod, and I like big, heavy braid, and I like seeing the fish eat. With that being said, it's a great flipping lake. You can go up there with a big jig or, a D-bomb type bait and catch plenty of fish. A spinner bait works really, really well whenever the water is high and muddy. And another one of my personal favorites is a swim jig. So those are my favorite ways to target the bushes and the cypress trees up shallow. Now, if you were to be fishing the grass up shallow, I would be throwing a walking bait for sure over the top of that over the top of that grass. Chatter baits for sure. Bladed swim jigs, swim bait, stuff like that. I've actually got a couple lures here that I picked out that I think could play at Rayburn. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the bushes and cypress trees deal. So of course you got your frog. This is a poppin' frog. I've got it rigged on a St. Croix Legend X 7.4 heavy, 65 pounds fins braid. Let's see. I've got this Yozuri walking bait here. Anything bone colored. We saw Lee Livesey absolutely kill it on fork on a bait very similar to that not too long ago. And I think
what rod was that? What do you like to
so,
throw that?
Yeah, this is actually the Sweeper spinnerbait rod, the Legend Tournament series. It's a 7-foot, medium heavy, moderate fast. I don't know if you can read that on there, but it's got a little bit softer tip, but still has a little bit of backbone. And I've had really, really good success keeping fish pinned on this rod on a topwater bait like that. It's also a really great rod if you like throwing a spinnerbait on braid. I don't really like to do that, but I found that it's my favorite topwater rod that I own from St. Croix. And then the swim jig over here, I actually kind of acquired this rod from my good buddy Guillermo Gonzalez. I'm not sure he even knows that I have it. It's a 7'5", medium heavy, extra fast, and it's actually been cut down 3 inches to 7'2". And it's just a short, very, very stiff rod to skip that swim jig around into the bushes, and it's got a lot of backbone to get those fish out of there too. And favorite trailer is the Excite Bait Shad Nesty. It's a great shad imitation, and got a little custom tied skirt on there. So those are the 3 that I have rigged up. And then I've got a couple other things. I've got this hand-tied spinner bait here. Out in East Texas and Louisiana, you got a lot of tea-colored water out there, kind of that brownish tint. And I really like that copper blade out there. So that could be a player. Don't know if it will be or not, but absolutely could be. Of course, your chatterbait. I don't have one in shad color right here, but green pumpkin, shad colored, you can't go wrong either one of those. Got a little flipping jig. This is a finesse jig, but you can go even bigger than that. And then as everyone knows, if you're gonna fish offshore at Sam Rayburn, you got to have a crankbait. So got a deep diving crankbait here. This is the Azuma Z-Boss. It's the 20, and it's one of my favorite deep diving crankbaits whenever I do get off the bank, which is not very often. But I think those will all play. I think Carolina rigs will play. I think Big Texas rigs will play. If there is an offshore bite as well, which who knows, depending on how muddy that water is and really how high it gets up and how high it is at the time of the event.
Yeah, and we spoke on it a little bit earlier. The lake is about 10 feet, just under 10 feet over summer pool, right now. And that's, some fisheries, 10 feet's not, it's 10 feet anywhere, but it affects different fisheries different. And, this area is definitely affected right now for those that are following. It's very muddy. It's very high. It definitely is going to be a challenge if we're able to get out on there. When you're going into an event like that, when it's mudded out, that there's all of this cover that never sees water. Where do you start? Because like this lake that has everything you want to fish on it now has twice as much stuff to fish. And,
Right.
Obviously as fishermen, we think that, a lot of times the fish are going to move up with the water and present themselves with new opportunities to feed and new cover. But it's just overwhelming. So, where do you fish? Where do you start when you're tackling a flooded fishery?
Yeah, for me, I think the first thing I do is I look for an area that, one, I either know has fish during normal water levels, or 2, looks like an area that should hold fish during normal water levels for this time of the year. And you start there, and those fish are going to naturally just move up with the water, and they're going to go the shortest distance from point A to point B to move up shallow, in my opinion. Everyone has their own thought on that. So look for those areas that normal water levels should hold fish, do hold fish, and then just move up from there and start picking it apart. I think naturally, whenever the water gets muddy, those fish are going to move up shallow as well, shallower. So the Angelina River right there is going to pump in a lot of dirty water into this lake, and that'll run all the way down the lake. So it doesn't really matter where you are. I think that if you just start in an area that normally holds fish and move up shallow from there, that's going to be a really, really good starting point. And I think too, like, especially as we move on later into the summer on Rayburn, that grass is going to start topping out on top of the water. So if the water is 10 feet high, that grass is only 10 foot down. So if you're fishing an area that's generally a little bit clearer, 10 foot is not too deep for those fish to hold in it. So they could just hang out there and hang up in that grass and be having the time of their lives. But you're going to have fish that do both. But that's how I generally start tackling that.
Yeah. Now, if we were to have to reschedule this event, is there certain times of year that, obviously Sam Rayburn is a year-round fishery and presents opportunities and challenges in every particular situation. But are there times of year where you, as what I'll call a local angler, that you kind of get jazzed up about, like you're like, this bite this time of year, just in general? Obviously we're, past pre-spawn, we're past winter, we're past a lot of stuff, but just in general, man, where do you, like, when you think about going to Sam Rayburn, when is that time frame for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like right now is a pretty good time, maybe a little bit earlier, like middle of May or so. But the other time that gets me really excited is in October, whenever those fish kind of move up shallow and start gorging themselves for the winter. At that point in time, you've got a lot of grass on the lake that's been growing all summer long. The lily pads are thick, vegetation's thick. Most of the time we start getting a little bit more rain around that time of the year as well. So the water level kind of starts coming back up after the summer. And it really opens up like a lot of opportunities. The shallow bush and tree bite, like I was talking about, it also opens up a really good punching bite and all that grass and that vegetation. And of course, you're still going to have your fish that are hanging off offshore. So I really think that kind of middle of May till now and October fish pretty similar on Rayburn. There's going to be nuances for sure, but that's another time of the year that gets me really, really fired up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like we mentioned earlier, it's one of those things that, having to reschedule a tournament, if that's what we end up having to do, is one of the most challenging things for a tournament director, mainly because we know how much planning and arrangements goes in for our anglers that, have to ask off for work and book housing and, do all of these things. So that's not lost on us. We understand that, but we also are put in a position where, the local officials and things like that are really, it's kind of up to them and on that. And, you saw some things posted on our group page where, they've literally shut down the facilities and aren't allowing people to use them. So it's kayaking is one of those things where, we don't require usage of boat ramps. We don't require, big parking lots. You can kind of get in where you fit in, and we fit in a lot of places. From going out on a Saturday afternoon, is one thing. Doing that in a kayak tournament, with, 100, 150 people from all over the country, and trying to find places for all of those people to slide in, legally and safely, and put themselves in a position to, enjoy a fishery and that's another thing. So I hope you guys understand, and we can, come to the best conclusion for this, and whatever we decide, or whatever we're forced into doing in this situation. Hope you guys understand, this year we didn't put any tournaments in October, because we wanted to keep October open in case we did have something we had to reschedule. Obviously, last year we had to cancel the Lake Erie event during the start of the COVID pandemic, and we were able to go back to Pennsylvania for the Susquehanna tournament in August, and it just kind of fit. And our anglers in that region showed out on 3 weeks' notice. And what we would hope to do is, if we know tomorrow that we're going to have to reschedule, know tomorrow what dates it's going to be. And that's kind of what goes into this, and helping everybody get as much time to plan accordingly, and getting it out there soon enough so folks, the majority of folks, don't have to leave. And I've had a lot of people say, hey, just put it on Toledo Bend or go to Lake Fork or some other lesser known but still really good fisheries in Texas and Louisiana. And I understand that, and for some local clubs, for some other entities, that's a possibility. For us, we have a contract with the folks in Jasper, Texas, to have an event this year, and that's some of the stuff that we have to work out on our end. And as we've learned over the last 2 years, things out of our control happen, and we have to pick up those pieces and feel it out. So what we will do, we will hopefully have the ability to let everybody know in the next 24, no later than 36 hours. But we just want to evaluate the situation as best we can, and make sure that we're doing right by everybody that's affected by this situation. So appreciate everybody asking me the questions, letting me know what's going on in that area, because obviously I'm not dialed into the East Texas news on a regular basis, and I just really, until a couple guys, Jason Willis was one of them that really helped clue me into the situation out there. I really appreciate everybody letting me know. And there's a few people that asked me questions today about specific launches and areas, and I just haven't been able to get back to those, and will when we have clarity on this event, just in general, on if and when we'll be able to have it. So Joseph, you already mentioned, so is that kind of your BOS schedule through the rest of the season? You're going to hit Sam Rayburn whenever we have it. You've got lacrosse. Well, we'll go in order. You've got Susquehanna at the end of July that you're hoping to make. You've got lacrosse at the end of August that you're hoping to revisit. And then if you need to, Pickwick out of Counts, Tennessee in mid-September. Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Tentatively, yes, sir. And we'll see how it goes. But Rayburn's definitely first on the list right now. So fingers crossed that that this happens, and we'll see. But looking forward to heading back up north. We don't have a whole lot of smallmouth down here in Texas, so that's always a treat to me. And just legendary Pickwick. Everyone knows about Pickwick, and I'm excited to go there. My dad has some history on Pickwick, and I've never been, and he's always telling me stories about it, so that'll be a lot of fun as well. Yeah,
it's Pickwick isn't northern smallmouth. It's more of a southern breed of smallmouth, and the Tennessee River smallmouth have happened to win some anglers a lot of money in this series, and there's some giant smallmouth in that fishery, but the largemouth there are big and can definitely play. That's going to be an interesting event to see how that plays out in September. A lot of other tournament entities go there and they open up other impoundments on the river. We are only going to be fishing Lake Pickwick for that event, so it'll be a really interesting event. And traditional, like as the schedule laid out, that was going to close our season. And so it could be really important to, people trying to get in last minute qualifiers, and see how our final Angler of the Year tally sets up, and who gets to round out our top 50 that will fish on Lake Eufaula. So obviously that's your goal, to get to Lake Eufaula this year. Do you have any experience or any perspective on Lake Eufaula? Is that just a new opportunity to learn a storied fishery and hopefully cash a big check?
That's exactly what that is. Never been there. Heard a lot about it, of course. I know that they got a lot of flooded grass out there, and I know that the brush pile bite out there is always a big player. So I feel like that's another one that's kind of anyone's game. It could be one up shallow or, out deep, especially that time of the year. And excited for hopefully making it out there. But first things first, we got some business to take care of along the way.
No doubt, it gets tougher and tougher to qualify for that thing.
No doubt.
These anglers, there's some names that have popped up and got qualified that maybe are unfamiliar to a national crowd, but the local guys are know who they are. They're used to donating their money to them often, and it's fun for me to see new names get qualified for the TOC, new names pop into the sport. But what's always consistent is, some of these other names that just all over
continue
the country
to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you're one of those guys, man, but, Broken Bow didn't treat you good early in the year.
No, it did
but
not.
You've got a lot of opportunities, and I know no one's counting you out through the rest of this season. And so we'll look forward to seeing you there, whether it's in 10 days here at Sam Rayburn or, a couple months at the Susquehanna. But man, we definitely appreciate you joining us tonight. That's really all that we have to talk about tonight. So you got some, I saw some comments popping up. I mean, I think people were a little surprised.
Not too happy.
Yeah. There's, there was definitely some juice in there, and some people knew how juicy it was. And some people, it's like, here's 8 baits, but there's like 3 or 4 of them.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I've only caught fish on Sam Rayburn on 2 of those baits. So, I hope everyone didn't get too excited and go tie them on for hopefully a tournament in a week and a half. That being said, I know plenty of people have caught them on that. So if I offended anyone, I apologize. But if you can't beat people throwing that stuff, then maybe you're not the best. So let's. I don't know. We'll see. That's what we're all chasing, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. We appreciate the time and you giving us some intel on the fishery and how you tackle it, man. These pre-event talks are great to just for anybody to watch, whether you're coming or not. There's plenty of juicy fishing information that we dive into that can help not just on these fisheries, but some of the ones that might be in your neck of the woods. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us tonight. Follow the group page this week, and we will have announcement on this event. We will also email all of the anglers that are already registered to let them know what's going to go on and let them know what they're going into. We also earlier this week put Lake Champlain up on the Hobie BOS site, so you can actually register for that event too. And we'll have plenty of more details and posts coming out of that. Now, I did want everybody to know, I know there's probably some people sitting there watching. They're like, man, is AJ drinking a beer? No, you guys know I'm not a beer guy. I got to give a shout out to Ale8, local Kentucky beverage. It's been a long day, so I needed to get some caffeine in me. But no, AJ's not drinking a beer. You guys know me better than that. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you all watching. We have definitely put Boone to sleep. He has passed out. But thank you guys, and follow the page this week, and we will see how Sam Rayburn's going to play out for us. Thanks.
What a fantastic morning here. The sunrise is just going to come up in a minute, and it's going to absolutely round off what to me has been a fantastic event, Hobie Fishing Worlds 8 in Australia on the Gold Coast.
I'm just going to do the same thing I did yesterday and just got to wait for that tide and grind it out. They just got to wait for the fish to come in with the tide. That's it.
Mate, game day, game on. Mate, I'm all set to go. Ready for 1,000 casts. Keep casting, keep in contact with the lure. Hopefully come home with a big one.
Same plan. I'll head south down to the rain. Me and Hicko got some areas where we have unfished waters, so we go through there and we'll pick up a bag. Fingers crossed 3 or 4 fish every 4 casts sort of thing, and then yeah, hopefully we can upgrade from there. There's a few big ones down there which I was lucky enough to look into yesterday. I hope I can do it again today.